The proposed Waqf law has generated a lot of debate in the country, a lot of apprehensions from the opposition and the minority community at large. We have with us today at the political adda Zakia Soman, who's a political activist. She has worked extensively on the issues of triple talaq, especially, and also uniform civil code and so on. Thank you so much, ma'am, for joining us at The Print.
Thanks for having me.
We are also joined by Neelam Pandey, who's a senior associate editor with The Print. So both of us, ma'am, will be asking you questions on the proposed law, which, as I mentioned earlier, has generated a lot of apprehensions as well as debate. And yesterday in the Lok Sabha, we saw a very heated debate between the opposition and the NDA, and we saw the Lok Sabha pass the controversial bill. So, first up, ma'am, the question that I want to ask you is that so far we have seen the way the Hindutva discourse has played out over the last 10 years, especially. We have seen on the political front, the Muslim community has been described as a vote bank. Socially, there have been issues of triple talaq, UCC, etc., some of which you have worked on. But with the the proposed Waqf law, we see an economic angle to the Hindutva discourse as well, where the claim that is being made is that the community unjustly holds these massive swaths of land across the country. So, how do you see this contribute to the Hindutva discourse at large, and how do you think this proposed law transforms the Hindutva discourse going forward?
Yeah. So you're right. This is part of an ongoing kind of an onslaught on the minorities and particularly the Muslims. In the first term, there were just infrequent incidents, but then in the second term onwards, this onslaught has really heightened, and it is helping polarize and divide further a society which is already quite polarized along religious lines. Before coming to that, I also want to say this, that there is a lot of misinformation and miscommunication being spread about Waqf. So Waqf is a donation or a charity given by a Muslim to be used for collective purposes of the community. So it can be in cash or kind. The dispute arises when it is in kind, in the form of property or a plot of land, which is what the current discourse is referring to. So many of the Muslim schools, madrasas, hospitals, mosques, qabristans that we are seeing are all on Waqf donations. They are running on Waqf. Uh, it would be untrue to say that there is no problem here. There is a problem of mismanagement. There is a problem of corruption. There's a problem of encroachment. Like, that is the reality of our country, that, any property which belongs to the collective gets encroached upon. It is very, very common. So that applies to Waqf also. But what this present bill is doing is, where the question arises whether it is addressing the need to get the Waqf out of this mismanagement and to bring it into the use for the community, welfare of the community, welfare of the poor, the women and children. So that is a big question mark. You are right that it is sort of part of the Hindutva effort to keep the Hindu-Muslim pot boiling. Because when now the government is talking about that, how this bill will help bring all the Waqf properties for the benefit of the community, but there is a huge context here. Over the last 11 years, we have not seen that kind of a concern from this government. Leave that alone, we have not seen this kind of a concern from any of the political parties and most of the state governments also. So when the Sachar committee says that the Muslims are amongst the poorest of Indian communities, that they are lagging behind economically, educationally, socially, so that is a situation which has developed decade after decade since 1947, and the blame lies at the door of all those who have been part of the government, The blame lies at the door of the political system, quite apart from it also being a failure of the Muslim leadership itself. So, the track record of this government in the last 11 years does not convince me, and it does not convince average Indians that it is this bill is genuinely driven by the intent of community welfare, which was originally the purpose of Waqf.
Neela, before you ask the question, relatedly, this is something I wanted to ask later in the conversation. But since you brought up the question of the Muslim leadership, I do want to ask you that increasingly we have seen over the last few years the sort of spokespersons of the Muslim community at large have been to a large extent delegitimized, and these are essentially the ulama, the clerics, and so on. Who do you think can now represent going forward the diverse Muslim community in India effectively?
So the traditional spokespersons have been delegitimized because they have been not connected to the reality of today's world, right? Their commitment, their competence, everything has been in question. And on the other hand, there are so many ordinary Muslims, both men and women, who are, getting more and more aware of their rights and responsibilities as citizens in a secular democracy. So it is wishful thinking, but I really wish that new leadership emerges from amongst them. uh, those who are sitting in the political parties wearing Muslim hats have also failed to address the needs of the community. When I say the needs of the community, I'm referring to needs as citizens, be it economic issues, be it jobs, be it education, be it higher education, be it political representation. So all these are the issues, be it women's equality. These are all the issues which have been ignored, perhaps willfully, by the so-called leadership. And that has fueled, to a large extent, that has fueled the Hindutva politics, that today a lot of ordinary Muslims can see that. And if we take the example of the women-led movement against triple talaq, the kind of support it received from the ordinary Muslims, both women and men. Of course, it was opposed by the Personal Law Board and the conservative elements, but it received a widespread support amongst the general Muslim populace. So that kind of gives me hope going forward, that Muslims whose primary identity is not a religious identity may want to sort of take up and engage with the community issues. So that is like a fond hope, Sanya. But it remains a fact that the traditional leadership, be it religious or to whatever extent it exists, social or political, has not been successful at all.
Well, ma'am, the bill sort of mandates the inclusion of non Muslim members in the Central Waqf Council. This is something that has been criticized not only by the opposition parties but Muslim leaders, organizations, because they see it as, an attempt by the government to sort of interfere in religious institutions and affairs. How do you see this?
Neelam, in principle, I welcome diversity, representation of women, representation from all community. That's a slice of India. In principle, I agree with that. But when we look at the discrimination here, because there are also several laws which are applicable to places of other religions, where nobody except a Hindu can be part of the management. Nobody except a Hindu can be part of that trust or that society. So why is it that we are only singling out one community and imposing this kind of a diktat, whereby we want to bring in people from other communities? So that's the question, and that is leading to a lot of skepticism and lot of fear amongst the minority community.
Just to add a counter to that, because the government is saying, and yesterday we saw Union Home Minister Amit Shah specifically talking about it, that he said the council is there for management of the property. We are in no way interested, and nor are we going to interfere in, religious affairs.
So first and foremost, this is it would be totally wrong to look at the Waqf question as a property issue, because it's just not that. It's just not about that. It's the larger question about right to religious freedom of the minority or any community as granted by the Constitution of India. So it needs to take into account the religious freedoms, the cultural freedoms, the freedoms to manage your own community assets, and all of these freedoms are are the rights of the Muslims as of the Hindus or as of anybody else. And when the Home Minister gives such an assurance, it's not credible, Neelam, because when we look at the kind of things which are happening all over, the way the Muslim community is being singled out for a coercive action by the state, particularly in states such as Uttar Pradesh and some of the states such as Assam, and the kind of laws which are being brought about, which are viewing minorities with a particular prism, and a lot of innocent people from the Muslim community. There's a long list of how they have been harassed in the last 11 years. Be it the mob lynchings, be it the bulldozing of homes, be it you being forced to say Jai Shri Ram, be it you being attacked or even arrested for offering namaz in a public garden. So there's a host of such incidents taking place which are very new to our country. And in the face of all these incidents, there has been inaction on the part of the government, central as well as the state governments wherever the BJP is in power. So this kind of an assurance by the Home Minister, means nothing. In fact, if at all, it only further raises doubts and fears in the minds of the ordinary people.
Well, Sane also pointed out that if you look at triple talaq, the Uniform Civil Code, and now we have Waqf, the way the RSS has also been pushing for it, whether it's Waqf, UCC, or triple talaq. But at the same time, government also positions it as a major reform, and they always try to showcase that women are going to benefit from it. If whether it's triple talaq, whether it's UCC, and now Waqf, they are saying that the inclusion of the women for the first time, they are in a way trying to, do you think they are trying to sort of reach out to the Muslim women through such efforts?
Uh, See, there are several. This is a very important dimension that you are pointing out. See, this, according to me, this is a kind of an instrumentalization of women's rights, because women are, are individuals, no doubt, they are citizens, but they are also part of their families. When their families and their community comes under onslaught, it cannot be good for the women also. This kind of a rhetoric, BJP is very clever at imbibing whatever is the modern rhetoric and deploying it for their own for their own ends, and this is what is happening here, because it's not as though the government has done anything much for education for Muslim girls, for instance, or creating opportunities for economic empowerment, and also the whole political impasse which was created again in at that time BJP ruled state of Karnataka over the question of hijab, and how the Muslim girls of Karnataka, of Udupi, suffered, their right to education, which is a fundamental right. They was sort of forced with this kind of a choice, because their conservative parents and their conservative families would not allow them to go to school or college without hijab, and the college or the school will not allow them entry if they come in hijab. And there the position of the BJP and the entire Hindutva community, it was so misogynist and so much overlooking, totally pushing under the carpet the rights of the Muslim girls, to be educated. So there is no again, there is a question. It's a question of credibility. It's always welcome when anybody, a political party or those in the government talk about women's rights. It's always welcome. But then that talk has to be backed by substantive actions, which is what, I'm sorry to say, we are not seeing. They did support the abolition of triple talaq, which was a very, very welcome, stand on the part of the central government in their first term. It's also their constitutional obligation, which they fulfilled. So I always acknowledge that, without any hesitation, I acknowledge that. But then the way things have gone after that, I don't think anybody really cares about the rights of Muslim women. So it's more of a rhetoric to be deployed whenever it's convenient, according to me.
Just to quickly add, for our viewers who might not know, Zakia ji was in fact, she had spearheaded the entire campaign against triple talaq some 9 to 10 years ago. I do want to ask you, ma'am, that do you think that even voices like yours, which were demanding for reform within the Muslim community, for women, for the backwards within the community, do you think those voices have become weakened over the last few years? And a question related to what Neelam asked, the discourse so far has been that Waqf property has remained unutilized so far, and now it can be used for the benefit of women, for pasmandas, and so on. For the clarity of our viewers, can you explain what the role of Waqf in the lives of ordinary Muslims is? You mentioned that Waqf properties are used as for madrasas, for hospitals, and so on. How do you think, actually, if you can explain, how is an ordinary Muslim's life dependent on properties from of the Waqf?
Yeah, so fundamentally, Waqf is a charity, meant for those who are deprived, those who are poor, those who are marginalized. So that can necessarily include children and women, and families who without any means. And the way the system is now, as of now, that there are 32 Waqf boards which are run under the aegis of the state governments. And these Waqf boards are supposed to be managing the Waqf properties in their respective states. Now, those properties can include, they can run skill training centers, they can run schools, they can run hospitals, where they are supposed to give priority admission to those who are poor and those who are in need. Now, these Waqf board members are very much appointed by the state governments. It's not as though they are an independent body. So, but what has happened in many cases, some Waqf boards in some states are run very, very well, but in some other states, they are, lying defunct. As a result, whatever are the Waqf assets, they are not being brought into the use of the for the community. It is not being deployed for the welfare of the community. So that is the problem. Uh, so we need a reform, and there are some of the civil society persons who have filed PILs in the Supreme Court in the last 10 or 12 years, that we need a countrywide survey of exactly how many properties exist under Waqf, and of what nature, and whether they are being used for the purpose for which they are meant to be used, or it is being used for some by some private individuals, private entities, or they are being encroached upon. And also there has to be a thorough stock taking and a plan about how are we going to bring it in the use of the community. But that does not seem to be happening as of now. You have seen it yourself, how we got support of so many women. Thousands and thousands of women joined the movement against triple talaq. But that that kind of a feat cannot be repeated now, because there is a general onslaught and there is a general atmosphere of fear, and the community feels alienated and marginalized. So we could not build a similar kind of movement against polygamy, for instance. Our petition against polygamy is lying in the Supreme Court. But we also felt that maybe right now, thanks to the politics of polarization, and thanks to the climate of hate, the time is not right, because the women cannot come out in large numbers and be part of a movement. So yeah, so voices such as ours, such as some of us, we have suffered. We have received like it's like a double whammy. We get marginalized from within the community because of the conservatives getting strengthened. Once again, when it comes to the UCC, I am seeing the seeds of a Shabano like movement, which some conservative groups are trying to build across the country, across different states. And once again, personal law board is coming into some kind of a lead role. So they never wanted progressive voices from the community to come out. That is on the one hand. On the other hand, because some of us refuse to be co-opted by those who are in power. So we get, sort of, we receive flack from them also. So yeah, so it's like धोबी के कुत्ते हैं हम, ना घर के हैं ना घाट के हैं. But I believe in, saying whatever I think is the right thing to say, and I have to answer. I'm answerable to my conscience, and I'm answerable to Allah. And on both counts, I am perfect and I'm in a happy place. So yeah, I'm not worried. But yeah, you're right. It is an issue because of the kind of politics which is going on.
Well, you mentioned about the alienation of the community. I just wanted to point out that the bill which was passed in the Lok Sabha yesterday, it also mentions that a practicing Muslim who has been practicing Islam for 5 years, he may be allowed to what should I say, declare a waqf. So a lot of opposition parties said that now minority communities, Muslims, will have to sort of give a certificate of their religion. How do you see this entire issue in terms of how the community is already, as you said, feeling alienated? How do you think this will sort of pan out?
And how can one prove
Yeah.
that they're a practicing Muslim?
Islam? Yeah.
Yeah. So this particular provision would be amusing, really. It would be ludicrous, but for the overall tragedy of the, politics behind this whole move. It is very obvious that, the somewhere there is that it betrays the real purpose, which is about, furthering division. Because not now, forever and ever, there have been any number of non-Muslims, Hindus, Christians, who have been donating their properties as waqf, and which are being used by the community. And there are some high court judgments upholding those kind of donations, and holding them as valid. So I mean, this is of course it's a distraction, but to be a Muslim, a person just has to recite the kalma and he or she is a Muslim. Here, the BJP government is, inventing its own requirement or its own kind of a mandate about who is a Muslim. I mean, it's I don't know. I'm just too amused by it. And since the constitution allows any Indian citizen to choose her religion, so I don't know how the government can override that. So anybody who says today that I am a Hindu is a Hindu, because that freedom of conscience is allowed by our constitution. That's one of our fundamental rights as Indian citizens. So today I say I want to be Christian, that moment onwards I'm a Christian. Similarly, if a person wants to be a Muslim, they are a Muslim. But now the government is saying that they have to be. So now we have to prove. We have to prove for 5 years that we are Hindus or we are Muslims or we are Christians. I mean, this is what kind of a mindset, from where these things are emanating. It's really sad day for a secular democracy, such a vibrant secular democracy, largest democracy such as ours, that these kind of things are sort of coming into the public discourse now.
Right. Another major area of confrontation between the opposition and Muslim leaders at the same time the BJP government is that the definition of Waqf, they are saying it is not a religious body, but it is a statutory body. How do you look at it? What is the correct definition?
Yeah, doing wakaf, in the sense donating my property, that's a religious act, which I carry out as a Muslim. But because these donations amount to substantive kind of a value, there has been a system put in place right from the times of the British government, which has been continued even after India became independent. So the laws, the 1995 Waqf law, which was amended in 2013. So it's a religious act, but it has to be governed under the democratic structure of our nation, which is perfectly valid. Both the things are perfectly valid. It's not a case of either or. So even the huge donations that some people might make, so, to say a Tirupati mandir or to the Sabrimala mandir, but the administration and management and regulation is done by a body which has been formed under that particular act, that particular law which applies to Tirupati or to Sabrimala. So it's the same as that. So it's see for the it's unfortunately in our country politics takes over any and every issue, and the nuances get lost. But it's according to me, it's doing wakaf is a religious act, but the administration, the management, the efficient use, bringing it in the service of the community, how that should happen, that has to be regulated by the lawmaking body, which is of course either the parliament or the state government.
And ma'am, so far the Waqf boards, the members of the Waqf boards, what are their backgrounds like? Are these religious
Yeah.
people, or what
Yeah.
is their background?
So on the flip side, of late, they are all members of the BJP. Because in the last 11 years, all the most members of the Waqf board, because it's the state governments who nominate members on the board. So
Right.
normally they see that, what's the background of a person.
Do they have to be religious scholars of any kind, or that is not required?
Yeah, they are from diverse professional backgrounds. There are business leaders. There is one, normally they keep one person who has some kind of a religious knowledge background. Either there are lawyers, there are activists, there are
Right.
and supporters and members of political parties. These are the it's like a slice of society.
Ma'am, one of the criticism that Waqf management has faced is that the land which should have been used for a certain purpose, let's say for a masjid or a madrasa, there have been cases, and in particulars, I'll give you an example of Uttarakhand, where the government has pointed out that some restaurants are running from there, some hotel chains are running from there. So, how do you look at that particular issue? I mean, is that an issue that really needs monitoring?
Yeah, yeah. So without being selective, it is an because it is a there is a huge mismanagement. There is a lot of encroachment. There is a lot of misuse, which entities and individuals are bringing it for private purposes. You are talking about a restaurant. There are government offices at times on Waqf land. There are municipal corporation offices in some cities which are there on a one-time Waqf land. This is what happens when when any matter is not properly regulated, managed, efficiently sort of looked after. So I agree that all these problems exist, but what is the best way, going forward, what will be the best way to retrieve all these properties and bring it in the use of the community for which it is meant. That calls for a certain in-depth kind of understanding. And also, okay, on the face of it, the government has done a lot of consultation. They are saying that the JPC has received some 90 lakh or some kind of responses. But have you consulted those who are at the forefront of managing these properties? Have you consulted the mutawallis? Have you consulted those bona fide members on the Waqf boards? Who want to contribute to society and to the community. So take their views on board, and thereby we may be able to find a solution about how to sort of. It's a monstrous proportion of a problem, but to resolve it, we need to sort of be more consultative, and we need to build a consensus as to how those solutions can come, which we have not seen happening.
Right, ma'am. We have talked about several aspects of work, but there's a political aspect to it also. On one side, we have Saugate Modi. We saw during Eid what all the BJP did, how it sort of showcased that it was trying to reach out to the community, and then we see decisions like the work amendment bill. How do you see, as far as the BJP is concerned, do you see a dichotomy between the two, or do you think this is how BJP has always operated?
So Saugate Modi and moves like that are fine, provided you have a fundamental vision for for this whole country, for all Indians, irrespective of their religious, caste, gender background. Is that the case with the BJP? Because they have been, they are a part of an ideological dream project, which is about Hindu Rashtra, which is about those who belong to a certain faith having supremacy and primacy, and all those who are not belonging to that faith are secondary. So that there is a fundamental kind of a contradiction here. From time to time, for electoral purposes, there can be, schemes like Saugate Modi. There earlier also there were, like Sohad Modi when he was the chief minister of Gujarat. He was sitting on a Sadbhavna fast. Then there can also be, sometimes we heard about Pasmanda outreach, but these have to be, it has to be part of a larger vision, which is actually the vision which is found in the Constitution of India, that India belongs to all Indians and all Indians are equal, irrespective of gender, caste, religion, faith, language, whatever. So is that the case? Quite clearly not. So they might, BJP might, it keeps on dabbling like this, especially yeah, yeah. But to what purpose?
Certainly not just electoral, because it's not just the BJP. We also see
Hmm.
the other RSS. Mohan Bhagwat, for example, a few years ago famously said that Muslims and Hindus share the same DNA. Right now, we have seen the RSS take what's being seen as a very neutral stand on the issue of Aurangzeb. So, how do you ideologically see this sort of maneuvering?
So I think it's part of their, it's part of the way they are. They always talk in multiple languages. They always, talk in a manner which confuses the general people. Because if we are all part of the same DNA, then why are we going after Muslims? Why are we bulldozing their homes without any due process? Why is the RSS, leaders? Why are the RSS leaders not saying that mob lynching is wrong? Killing human beings in the name of Gauraksha is wrong. This should not happen. Why are they not intervening to sort of retrieve the downslide, which is happening as when it comes to hate and demonization of the minorities? So occasional statement here and there, it does not yield any outcomes, no, in real terms. So this is like a, those who have analyzed, those intellectuals who have analyzed the working of the right wing feel that, typically obfuscation, double speak, changing stance, changing positions, convenient kind of statements are all, part of being right. So yeah, I'm afraid that's the case here also.
And this has been an absolutely insightful conversation. And of course, now the bill goes to the Rajya Sabha, and we see what happens there. And but thank you so much for joining us at the print.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sanya, and thank you.